Ooh, yeah, yeah. They say it's all right. They say it's all right. Say it's all right. Have a good time. 'Cause it's all right. Whoa, it's all right. Now we gonna move it slow. Up in the lights low.
Hello and welcome to Inside Chor Leoni. My name is Erick Light, and I am the artistic director of Chor Leoni Men's Choir. And we are so glad to have you with us for this really fun and special show we've got planned for you. Before we get into it, I want to thank our sponsors, Blue Shore Financial, who is our series sponsor. Thank you, Blue Shore, for everything that you do for Chor Leoni and for lots of good things here in Vancouver. And I also want to thank Mike Jackman, one of our beloved singers from the choir, who is sponsoring this episode. Mike, we love you. And for those of you that saw our digital concerts a couple of weeks back, Mike was the guy in the plane. If you saw it, you'll know exactly what I mean. So we thank you so much, Mike. I want to get right into playing some music for you, and this is one of the little chestnuts of the male choir repertoire. Felix Mendelssohn, of course, wrote so much incredible choral music for large voices, large forces, as well as smaller works. And this would be, I would call, a bit of a motet from Mendelssohn. It's Beati Mortui, Blessed Are the Dead. This is a performance that Chor Leoni gave at a few years back at one of our Remembrance Day concerts. And it's one of our just favorite pieces, and I love this performance of the guys.
Domino
Well, clearly we're having some technical difficulties on my end. That was Beati Mortui by Felix Mendelssohn, and we'll see if we can get any of that cleared up in the meantime here. I want to bring in our guest, and you'll have to deal with me being on a massive delay, but he knows no delay. Is one of the people I've been really excited to speak with for this program, and please welcome to the show, Jason Max Ferdinand. Hello.
Thank you guys so much, Eric. I'm humbled to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you. And I'm sorry that we're having a little bit of technical issues, but, you know, the internet.
Yep. It happens.
It does happen. I do want to, before I get into any of this, encourage folks to watch our Further Inside Chor Leoni. I did a lovely interview with Jason before this show. I know it's not on a delay, and he said some just remarkable things. So I encourage you to check that out when it goes up on Thursday on YouTube. So we shall see what happens here. Jason, thank you for being with us. Tell us a little bit about your own personal story, your background, your musical journey, how you've ended up to this spot in your career.
Well, I was born and raised by and large in the Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, which in itself should tell you something musically about me. Calypso, soca, steel pan, all those very rhythmic forms are in my DNA. I came up to school to finish my undergrad music degree after switching from kind of like a biology medicine track while I was in Trinidad. I decided to switch to music, so I did my first degree in piano here at Oakwood University, then went on to Morgan State University, finished my master's there. Then I went to a small boarding school in Pennsylvania and taught there for 7 years. It was year 4 into those 7 years I started my doctoral degree at University of Maryland and finished up there. And in 2008, I came down to Oakwood University, where I serve as director of choral activities here and chair of the music department. So that brings me up to now.
You've said that whole line, all those lines before. That was very very well put together. Now Oakwood is an incredibly famous music school. First of all, how many people go to Oakwood?
On a great year, we have 2,000 students.
Wow. And you've had some major musical forces come out of this school. Could you list some names?
Oh yeah, Take Six, the 10-time Grammy winners, and Quincy Jones has called them the baddest cats on the planet. Angela Brown, who went on to the Metropolitan Opera. Janice Chandler, who was one of the favorite sopranos of Robert Shaw. Committed, the a cappella group that won the Sing-Off a few years ago. Wintley Phipps, the great bass baritone who sung for every U.S. president.
And on and on.
Brian McKnight, I could go on and on and on.
Yeah, it is an amazing legacy, and Chor Leoni was lucky to have. We hosted Take Six here for our male choir festival a few years back, so folks around here will be a bit familiar. But the Aeolians is a much of a legacy kind of institution musically for the college as well. And can you give us a little bit about quickly about its history, but also like how you work? What is your kind of your daily or your weekly routine, and how I'm much more interested about how you work with them as well.
Okay, yeah, the Aeolians was started in 1946 by a lady by the name of Eva B. Dykes, who wants to have a group that can go out to help recruit and raise money and those sort of things. The routine now for the Aeolians: rehearse Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Fridays, if we're not on the road traveling, 2 hours apiece, so comes up to about 6 hours. But I find myself ending earlier and earlier every year, it seems. So take that with some salt. That's pretty much the routine. We kind of set up shop between August and November-ish, before we start kind of taking out of town gigs and that sort of thing. And our spring semesters get very busy for us. Typically travel maybe twice a month between January and April. So we do a lot of concerts in a given school year. And my students are made up of kids from all across campus, biology, chemistry, business. So very, very diverse group of students.
It's just so interesting hearing you talk about that. I went to St. Olaf College. Doesn't have maybe a little bit bigger as far as being a small place, but it had that kind of, again, that sort of legacy and intensity of a choral program that in many ways became much more of a flagship for the college than the football team, let's say. Exactly. There is I think a really unique internal culture that comes from that. You're an alumni and all the rest of it. You may not have the best outside perspective, but is there something that's special, undefinable about this group and where they're coming from and how they operate?
That you use the word definable, and there's so many things that we find ourselves still struggling to define and explain. Like so often in our rehearsals, we'll say something like, could you put the Oakwood sound on that chord right there? And I can't tell you exactly what that even means, but some kind of way here at Oakwood, we know what that sheen and that color is in our minds, and that goes all the way back to, like I said, the Take 6 days and all the quartets back in the 70s and 80s. There's just a certain quality, a certain sound that we are still trying to define, and thankfully we've kept those invaluable and sometimes undefinable things in our repertoire. Yeah.
It wouldn't be any fun if we could understand it all, right? Like, it's got to be
exactly.
It's got to be a bit of a mystery. Well, I want to. So a lot of our audience may have never heard you all, and you guys took the last ACDA by storm. We're going to play the Lobet im Herrn and the Jubilate Deo from that performance. Could you set both of those pieces up? Maybe the Bach doesn't need much of a
right
intro.
Well, I'll say this, like I shared with you earlier, for my students, that was the first time we tackled any Bach. So that was a real journey. And we had some help by my professor at the University of Maryland, Dr. Ed McClary, who I consider a Baroque specialist, and Bruce Rogers, who really kind of helped us shape those things. But my students just really loved the challenge of learning that. And then the second piece, the Jubilate Deo, was a piece, I remember distinctly, I was vacuuming my apartment, and I was playing some music, and I'm like, what piece is this? And I looked at the recording, and that's how I found that piece. It was just exciting. I just said I had to do it, and it really fit well with what we were trying to do for the ACDA. So that's what I'll say about those two pieces.
Well, absolutely. So those of you who have not seen this, prepare to get blown away. This is Jason Max Ferdinand and the Aeolians.
Jubilate, jubilate Deo, jubilate Deo, Deo jubilate Deo, jubilate Deo, Deo jubilate, jubilate Deo, Deo jubilate Deo, jubilate Deo, misera, alleluia, 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 alleluia.
Extraordinary. That is Jason Max Ferdinand and the Aeolians at the last ACDA National Convention. What a set, man. That is just... and in our further inside, we talked quite a bit about choral identity. And I won't get into too much of what we had there, but it's for some groups, that identity comes from maybe one kind of music, and with this set especially, and I think all of the work that you're doing, it shows such stylistic fluidity in your work. Do you have some idols of choirs or choral directors or sounds, or are there grab bags of things that are inspiring to you? What goes on the Jason Max Ferdinand top 5 or 10 list of
oh man, are you trying to get me in trouble? Oh
yeah, who doesn't make the list is what
right. I just have I have some people I really admire what they do, and I've tried over the years, even when they didn't realize it, to kind of take what I liked and take some stuff from here, there, everywhere. Bruce Rogers is a dear friend of mine who conducts in Mount San Antonio concert choir in California, and his work way back in 2007 really grabbed me. And it's a funny story here. In 2007, the University of Maryland concert choir, we went to the Choir of the World competition in Wales when Bruce won it. And 10 years later, when I took my choir, guess who was one of the judges at that same competition? Bruce Rogers. And he saw me day 2 of the competition. We had never met. And he said, you know, it's funny, when I look at your choir sing, it reminds me of my choir. So I proceeded to tell him the story about when I saw him 10. So Bruce is a big influence on me. My teacher, Dr. Ed McClary. And I think a big part of what I do too, Eric, is I mentioned the Trinidad thing and the music there for a certain reason, because I grew up listening to a lot of different things. And then Take 6 is my absolute favorite group in the world. And so age 8, 9, I was already transcribing that stuff and learning that harmonic language. So I bring that rhythm thing with me from my Trinidad background, the harmonic language with me from my Take 6 and early vocal jazz things, and then infusing that with everything I learned classically along the way. And I think that kind of creates the thoughts in my head musically about what I want to share and what I feel comfortable in sharing.
For sure. As choir directors, I think a lot of times that we have, you know, our own little worlds and the places that we're living, you know, being influenced by our professions. But I think one of the things, at least for me, is we can be so, and I think we need to be so inspired by our own singers that we're working with, our colleagues that are singing with us, for us, day in and day out. How have they influenced you over the years? What has surprised you about working? And you get young people who keep coming in fresh all the time. How has that changed you in any way?
You know, the one thing I like about the students at Oakwood, and sometimes this is a good thing, and sometimes it just gets on my nerves, but they love singing hard repertoire. They learn it faster than a 4-part motet. It's so frustrating at times. But you give them something, you know, very harmonically dense, and they'll be all over it, all over it. So I think that I love that, and I've fueled their love of that. And so we have so many former students who have written great pieces that normally I'll look at it and be like, there's no way we could sing this. Or my dear friend Cedric Dent, who was the original baritone in Take 6, he writes things for us all the time. Matter of fact, we did one of his pieces at the ACDA convention. So I like the students influence me in that way, because I know they like the challenge of doing difficult music, and they'll do it in a very organic way, because it's not forced or foist. That's a nice word too. But they like the challenges, and they present it in a very cool and collective type of way. So they've inspired me in that way.
And that's really fabulous. But in terms of maybe what you're singing about, I keep working with younger people, it seems to me that their grasp on the world and their quest for meaning is maybe more intense and driving than it was maybe when I was their age.
So true, yeah.
Has that influenced you in ways, or how, maybe not just maybe not the repertoire you're picking, but maybe how you approach it? How has that factored in?
So that's a great question, Eric, and it kind of ties back into something I just finished writing a few weeks ago. My students kind of embody this whole thing of what I'm coining to be a CEO. CEO meaning curiosity, empathy, and optimism. And students now are so further ahead in the curve, you know, compared to when I was growing up, when it comes to world issues or just issues they have to deal with at home or in the communities. And they're very, very in touch with it. And it makes me then have to be curious to learn more about their situations. And then that curiosity always leads to empathy, because now you want to feel how they feel and express how they express. And I think all of that passes on then to our audiences, because we want to bring the audience into all of our collective experiences, and then they all be in optimism. I think we as artistic leaders now have to go way beyond, you know, just singing right notes and rhythms, but really seriously giving people hope and something to look forward to. So their collective stories is something I try to dig into more now. And dig is the wrong word, but just trying to be a part of what they're going through. And I think that pours a lot into what people see the Aeolians being. And like I shared that word with you earlier, they call it an experience as opposed to a concert, because they want to bring those life experiences all to the music.
And I have always found when groups have that strong, that when what you're talking about is part of their choral identity, it always translates to the stage, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, you can feel it, and that passes and knocks down a lot of barriers. I've found you could get away with singing some wrong notes if people could feel your heart. I'm serious. You know, I tremble when I go back and look at the clips of, when we won that Choir of the World competition, because musically there are some parts in there that, in our minds it goes on for a whole eternity, right? But it probably lasted for like 3-4 seconds. But musically there are parts that's like, okay, what was happening here? Yeah. But you look at the video and there was one song where they just all started tearing up in the middle of the song. We're doing Entreat Me Not to Leave You, the Dan Forrest. And I mean, where you go, I will go. And I'm there thinking, oh my gosh, please don't break down now. Please don't. But that all brought so much to the experience. And they were literally singing their hearts out. You know what I mean? So you could get away with some wrong notes and rhythms and tones if people feel your heart. And I think that's probably more important. And especially, coming out of this pandemic, I think that's where I want to be more. We can't just do some Mozart here and some Bach here just to do it. It has to be so much more deeper than that now.
I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more. I want folks to hear a little bit more from you. But before we get into this, I want to encourage the people that are watching and listening. If you have questions for Jason, please put them in the comments. Phil Jack, our inimitable director and technical guru, will relay those to us. And if you're like me, you probably want to just spend about 4 or 5 days talking to Jason. We've got this ridiculously mind-blowing arrangement of Ezekiel Saw the Wheel. Can you set this up for us, please?
Oh man, well this is a Stacey Gibbs arrangement. And one thing I like about Stacey, he's not afraid to tackle those songs that for decades have had one standard arrangement. So for example,
William Dawson,
right,
was the one.
Well, you think about the Hall Johnson way over in Beulah Land, and Stacey tackled that. So initially it's kind of like, man, you really want to do an Ezekiel? So he really put his foot into this one and made it double choir, and it's just a really cool piece. So
it is it's a tour de force, and not only it's sung with all the right notes, but it's just got so much heart and joy in this performance. So this is the Aeolians, Jason Max Ferdinand and Stacey Gibbs arrangement, Ezekiel Saw the Wheel. Oh, you gotta love it. It's just that. Oh, everything about it. It's just fantastic. Aeolians, Stacey Gibbs arrangement of Ezekiel Saw the Wheel. You know, I chose that one. First of all, it's a piece people got to hear, and it's a performance people got to hear. But I saw the double choir, and I can't not think Bach. You know, when I see that do you know what I mean? It's as absolutely as demanding rhythmically, vocally. You know, all of those things. For you, are these with the amount of styles that you cross with this group? I assume that one informs the other in your performance. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I haven't heard that recording maybe ever, and I have to admit I enjoy it way more now than I did back then. But the one thing that immediately came to my head, and we talk about this all the time, is that concept of groove, you know, which is something you talk about in jazz or gospel or something. I could feel it there. So we kind of cross-fertilize a lot, because when we did the Bach, we talked a lot about groove and
the dance. It's a dance. Yeah.
Exactly, it's the same thing. In the Bach, you could feel that backbeat, kind of like you feel for jazz. So so one does inform the other, and you just kind of pull things that help whatever you're doing at the moment in time.
Oh, it's just marvelous. Well, I want to bring Phil Jack in here. Oh, Phil. Hi there.
Hello.
Yes, we have Jason. I didn't warn you about Phil's head coming between us. Phil comes between me and most of the choral conductors on the show. How are you, Phil?
Wow. Okay. I'm good.
Deal with it. I had camera problems. I'm feeling a little punchy. Any questions or comments out there from folks?
Sure. I think people are pretty. I think of all the things. I mean, it's all very exciting, but I think people are very taken with the Bach piece. I think that's. People are just generally impressed with it, like doing it without music, things like that. I had a question related to that as well. Now, you mentioned that performing the Bach piece, that was the first time you'd done something like that. And I wonder, what other kinds of directions are you maybe looking for in the future to, say, expand further? You mentioned that as part of the choir's identity and your efforts to shift and expand that. Yeah,
that's a great question. I mean, definitely to kind of tackling some various composers. Like, for example, it dawned on me a couple of years ago. I haven't done any Erick yet. Because when I came to Oakwood, the colors that the choirs generally sang with then just wasn't the color for Whittaker. So I think I feel like I could tackle more of that now. We've started doing a lot of Renaissance pieces, but definitely doing way more of that, because I think they're at that place now. They have the tone and they understand what's going on behind it. And definitely, trying to keep up and doing more commissioning. I mentioned Cedric Dent, who writes stuff for us all the time, and I have another young faculty member who I taught all the way in high school as well, Stephen Murphy, who is an amazing composer. Erick, you need to check out some of his stuff. Matter of fact, we talk offline.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm
he
writing this down.
is
Yeah.
amazing, and it's good to have him around because he sees the journey the choir is on, and he could always write something for right where we are. You know what I mean? So he's kind of like an in-house arranger. And definitely trying to get the Aeolians to do more, major choral works, which they can do it. We just, because of the demographic of people we sing to and where we go, we haven't had to do a whole lot of those. We did a Verdi Requiem here in town a few years back, and Mozart Requiem, but definitely kind of want to keep that steady. Yeah.
Fantastic question, Phil. And are there, you're talking about maybe the things that are on the close horizon. Mm-hmm. Are there a few things maybe on the way out? I mean, it's really interesting hearing you talk about that, because with Chor Leoni, there are a few pieces for male choir that I want to do with the choir, mm-hmm. but we're still on the journey to get there, and people don't always understand that. They think we as conductors just program the music that we like.
No,
it's much more complicated than that. But are there some dream pieces for you?
Oh yeah. One of these days I was just looking at hold on. If you see my music back here.
Yep, you got your choral repertoire book up there. Yeah, so.
Like this Belshazzar's Feast is always on my dream list. Yeah,
that's a fantastic piece.
Yep. Let's see what's back here. Oh geez, it's just so many things back there. That's just one wall, right? But it's so many things I just want to explore and do, and do things to make me uncomfortable at first, because that's how you learn, right? It makes you uncomfortable at first, and then you kind of tackle it and you dive in, like, wow. But Mr. Solemnus, the Beethoven, is always a piece I want to do someday. I could go on and on and on with my bucket list, but like you said, it's definitely not about doing stuff you like. You have to have the right forces in front of you and the maturity or whatever elements you need to make that thing work. So we'll see.
It's fantastic. Well, I know that you will get there. Phil, was there anything else that you had to contribute for the greater good?
Sure. Our own Dr. Greg Martin was wondering, Jason, about what composing or arranging you might have been doing, and what might inspire your own work in that way.
Oh wow! So before I had any dreams of becoming a conductor, I was actually a big composition guy. But things have flipped, and I don't. Time doesn't allow me to write as much as I'd like to, so I kind of do it in spurts, like literal spurts. Like it comes out whenever. So the last thing I wrote was actually probably a year ago when my daughter was born, and Erick got to meet her on the video a little earlier. But I wrote a song literally a few days after she was birthed called "Safe in His Arms," and so I kind of write now when things inspire me deeply. I just try to make the time to scribble it down and get that done. So that's my compositional activities these days. Not as busy as I would like it, because I'm just busy doing so many other things.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Anything else there, Phil?
I think we have one more.
All right, we got time.
Again, back to the Bach. Michael Soderling was observing that the musicians, not the instrumentalists, were mixed in with the choir, and he's just he's curious about how that experience differs from other ways that might have been arranged?
Great question. So let me answer it from the musician's standpoint. The day before that concert, we rehearsed at a church kind of close by to the concert site. And this church didn't allow us to do that formation you see in there. So they were in the traditional place in front. But after the rehearsal, I then gave them a stage plot to say, hey guys, this is how we're going to do it tomorrow. And the looks I got, they were like, what? Like, are you smoking or something? They absolutely hated the idea. But let me tell you this, by the time we got done with the concerts, all of them literally came up to me and were like, man, this was the best experience sonically because we were able to hear and feel the energy of the choir being in between. And they absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. So from their perspective, they loved it. And for the singers, it kind of, again, it just gives us a more homogeneous energy and homogeneous sound because, here you're singing right next to the first violin and I'm singing the same part and we're able to kind of listen and phrase the same way. So it just feels good. I loved how it felt. And,
I love the way it looked. I love how it felt. And it's so a part of the differentiation between instrumental and vocal music in this time period is so ephemeral. There's not that much divide, and there's also just so much listening that can go on where the bow informs how the sopranos are going to sing a line and vice versa. And you could spend years trying to teach that, but if they just can hear each other and listen, it happens. And it was so apparent on that. Jason, I would just want to thank you so much for being with us for this show. It's just time and time again, as I've been talking to you, your courage and the beauty of your convictions really shines through in your work. Thank you for that. Whether it's having such a stylistic universe that you inhabit, or just putting violins in with your sopranos, it does take some courage, and we are all the better for it. So
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Before we say goodbye to all the rest of you, though, we've got one more piece that I want to play, and this is just one of my favorite pieces. We recorded this a couple years back at one of our Van Man Male Choral Summits, and it features Ellen Wang on the organ. This is an ancient Estonian hymn called O Christus valgus oled sa, and it's arranged by the Swedish composer Gunnar Eidenstam. And I thought this was just a cool mix with some of what the Aeolians bring to their music. It's taking this ancient Estonian tune sung by the men of the choir with pipe organ, but the pipe organ isn't playing any sort of like traditional pipe organ kind of sound. It's basically playing like this jazz funk. It's got an ostinato pedal thing that goes on through, and it's this like really kind of slow groove that happens with all these cool licks on the top of the organ. So if you think about it being played on like a Hammond, you can imagine what this is going to sound like. But out of a pipe organ with traditional pipe organ sound, with a more traditional male choir sound, I just love the juxtaposition of this. One of our favorite pieces. This is O Christus valgus oled sa.
Awesome stuff, man.
Oh, thank you, Jason. I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. I want to thank Blue Shore Financial for their sponsorship and Mike Jackman for sponsoring this episode. It means so much to us. We're looking towards the end of this season, and next week is our final episode before we take a little bit of a break for the summertime. And we have a very special guest. Two of the singers from Voces 8 will be joining us, and I really look forward to speaking with them and sharing their music with you. Please take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we will see you next time.
Yeah. They say it's all right. They say it's all right. Say it's all right. Have a good time. 'Cause it's all right. Whoa, it's all right. Now we gonna move it slow. Up in the lights are low. When you move it slow, it feels like a moan. 'Cause it's all right. Whoa, it's all right.